The contents of the Torah Shebichtab, or Law of God or Oral Torah, that was given to Moses at Mount Sinai, has been proven by so many historical evidences that verify its legitimacy. But the Torah Shebe'al Peh, or also known as Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara and Talmud, does not have any historical evidence to verify its legitimacy, not even a mention from the Torah Shebichtab, or Oral Torah, which it claims to be interpreting from. In other words, the Torah Shebe'al Peh, or also known as Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara and Talmud, is nothing but a rumor passed down from generation to generation, which is not very different from a telephone game. Some might say, but in Devarim or Deuteronomy 12:21, it says, "You shall slaughter the animal in the way that I command you." But nowhere in the written Torah can we find this command on how to slaughter an animal. Isn't this an evidence to the existence of the Oral Torah? Alright, let's see if that is what it truly says. According to Devarim or Deuteronomy 12:21, "Ki yirchak mimcha hamakom asher yivcha Yahweh locha lasum shmasham, וזבחת מבחרך ומצונך אשר נתן יהוה לך, כאשר תבסתך ואכלת בשעריך בכל אהבת נפשך." באנגלית, or in English, "If the place which Yahweh your Elohim will choose to put his name there will be far from you, and you have slaughtered from your herd and from your flock, which Yahweh gave to you, just as I have commanded you, and you shall eat in your gates, in all your soul's desire." Well, it didn't really say, "You shall slaughter the animal in the way that I command you." But there is a part where it says, "just as I have commanded you." Now, if it says, "just as I have commanded you," it means it's a command that's already been said. So, where can we find this command that's already been said? In Devarim or Deuteronomy 12:14-16. "Certainly, with a place which Yahweh will choose, in one of your tribes, there you shall bring up your burnt offerings, and there you shall do all which I command you. Only you shall slaughter, and you shall eat flesh in all your gates, in all your soul's desire, according to the blessing of Yahweh your Elohim, which he gave to you. The impure and the pure shall eat it, like the deer and like the male deer. Only you shall not eat the blood, you shall pour it out upon the ground like water." And now, if we read Devarim or Deuteronomy 12:21 again, along with Devarim or Deuteronomy 12:22-24, "If the place which Yahweh your Elohim will choose to put his name there will be far from you, and you have slaughtered from your herd and from your flock, which Yahweh gave to you, just as I have commanded you, and you shall eat in your gates, in all your soul's desire. Surely, just as the deer and the male deer may be eaten, thus you shall eat it. The impure and the pure shall eat it together. Only be strong, in order to not eat blood, for the blood is the life, and you may not eat the life with flesh. You shall not eat it, you shall put it out upon the ground like water." In short, the "just as I have commanded you" in Devarim or Deuteronomy 12:21 is actually just referring to the command that's already been said in Devarim or Deuteronomy 12:14-16. Some might say, okay, given that what you say is true, how are we supposed to slaughter the animal now? Tell me, if God told you to run, does God really have to tell you how to run? If God told you to jump, does God really have to tell you how to jump? And if God told you to sleep, does God really have to tell you how to sleep? In other words, just slaughter the clean animal and pour out its blood. That's it. Some might say, okay, how about Shemot or Exodus 25:9, where God showed Moses the pattern to build the tabernacle? It's nowhere to be found in the written Torah. Tell me, if God is the one who showed Moses the pattern, who do you think will show us the pattern? A man? Of course not. It will still be God. How? With the spirit of Elohim. According to Shemot or Exodus 35:32-35 and Shemot or Exodus 36:1. "And Moses or Moshe said toward the sons of Israel or Yisrael, Look, Yahweh called in the name of Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, to the tribe of Judah or Yehuda. And he, Yahweh, filled him, Bezalel, in the spirit of Elohim, in wisdom, in understanding, and in knowledge, and in all craftsmanship, and to estimate a plan, to work in gold, and in silver, and in bronze, and in craftsmanship of stone, to be filled in craftsmanship of wood, to work in all plans of craft. And he, Yahweh, gave in his heart Bezalel to teach him, even Oholiab, son of Achisamach, to the tribe of Dan. He, Yahweh, filled them the wisdom of heart, to work all the craft of a skilled worker and planner, and of an embroiderer in blue and in purple, in scarlet thread, and in fine linen, and of a weaver who can make all craftsmanship, who can estimate a plan. And he, Yahweh, made Bezalel and Oholiab and all wise-hearted men, and them which Yahweh gave wisdom and understanding, to know to work all the craft of service of the holy, to all which Yahweh commanded. In other words, the pattern to build the tabernacle and its instruments can only be received through the Spirit of Elohim. Look at David. He did not receive the pattern to build the temple orally. He received it through the Spirit of Elohim. According to Divrei Hayamim Aleph, or 1 Chronicles 28:11-12, and David gave Solomon, or Shelomo, his son, the pattern of the porch and its house, and its treasury, and its upper part, and its inner part chamber, and house of the ark cover, and the pattern of all which he, David, had in the Spirit with him, to the courtyards of the house of Yahweh, and to all the chambers around, to the treasuries of the house of Elohim, and the treasuries of the holies. And even Zerubbabel, he did not receive the pattern to rebuild the temple orally. He received it through the Spirit of Elohim. According to Zechariah 4:6, and he answered and said toward me, saying, This is the word of Yahweh toward Zerubbabel, saying, Not in might and not in strength, but in my spirit, says Yahweh of armies. In other words, Moses or Moshe, David, and Zerubbabel, who came from 3 different generations, none of them received the pattern orally, and all of them received it through the Spirit of Elohim. Some might say, okay, but how about Devarim or Deuteronomy 17:8-11? When a matter is too difficult to judge, we, the children of Israel, are commanded to follow the verdict or hamishpat of the priests and judges. But the verdict or hamishpat of the priests and judges are nowhere to be found in the written Torah. The verdict or hamishpat of the priests and judges is the same with the pattern for the tabernacle. It is the wisdom of Elohim, which is not received orally, but received through the Spirit of Elohim, just like how Solomon or Shelomo received the wisdom of Elohim. According to Melachim Aleph, or 1 Kings 3:28, and all of Israel or Israel heard the verdict or mishpat which the king Solomon or Shelomo judged, and they feared the king Solomon or Shelomo, for they saw that the wisdom of Elohim was in him, to do the verdict or mishpat. And to Devarim or Deuteronomy 17:11, according to the law or written Torah, which they, the priests and judges, will teach you, and upon the verdict or hamishpat, which they, the priests and judges, will say to you, you shall do. You shall not turn away from the word or wisdom of Elohim, which they, the priests and judges, will declare to you, the right and the left. In other words, just like Solomon or Shelomo, if you have something you don't know, simply ask God for wisdom, not to debate and find answers among yourselves. Because the law of God or written Torah was not given to teach you every step of the way. It was given to teach you that you need God in every step of the way. Another reason why the Torah Shebe'al Peh, or also known as Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara and Talmud, makes no sense is the teaching of the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, or 7 Noahide laws to the Gentiles. How? Would you teach someone with something you don't follow? Would you teach someone to work on Shabbat while you rest? Would you teach someone to eat what is unclean according to God, like pig, shrimp, and camel, while you eat what is clean according to God, like lamb, anchovy, and cow? What would that make you? A hypocrite, and someone who puts God's name in vain by spreading teachings that are disgusting to God. Another reason why the Torah Shebe'al Peh, or also known as Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, and Talmud, makes no sense is how it contradicts the Torah She'bechtab, or Law of God or written Torah. For example, if we look at Yevamot 65b7, Ve'amar Rabbi El'ah, Mishom Rabbi Elazar, Berabbi Shimon, Mutar lo Adam, Leshanot Bidvar HaShalom, Shene'emar, Avicha Tiva Vego, Kotamero le Yosef, Anasana Vego. Here's the translation and explanation from Sephaya.org. And Rabbi Eliah further said in the name of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, "It is permitted for a person to depart from the truth in a matter that will bring peace, as it is stated, your father commanded before he died, saying, so you shall say to Joseph, please pardon your brother's crime," etc. Genesis 50:16-17. Jacob never issued this command, but his sons falsely attributed this statement to him in order to preserve peace between them and Joseph. Tell me, did God not say, "You shall not bear false witness"? Why then does the Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara and Talmud, which claims to be interpreting the law of God or written Torah, teaches against the law of God or written Torah? Is having peace from violating the law of God or written Torah greater than obeying the law of God or written Torah and facing the consequence of one's own action? And why is the Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, and Talmud using Joseph or Joseph's brothers as good examples for teaching values? The very same brothers who attempted to kill Joseph or Joseph, and the very same brothers who sold Joseph or Joseph. And you know what's worse? The very next verse, which is YHWH 65b8. Rabbi Natan Omer, Mitzvah shene'emar, Vayomer Shmuel, Echelech, Veshama Shaul veragani. Here's the translation and explanation from Sephira.org. Rabbi Nathan says, it is a mitzvah or commandment to depart from the truth in order to preserve peace. As it is stated, and Samuel said, how can I go? And Saul will hear and kill me. 1 Samuel 16:2. God responded in the next verse that Samuel should say he went to sacrifice an offering, indicating that God commands one to lie in order to preserve peace. Even if we try to read Shmuel Aleph or 1 Samuel 16:2 100 times, we would not find a single indication of God commanding us to lie in order to preserve peace. The only thing we'll find is how God simply dismissed Samuel or Shmuel's fear of getting killed by Saul or Shaul, and how the Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, and Talmud turned God into a hypocrite. Another reason why the Torah Shebe'al Peh, or also known as Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, and Talmud, makes no sense is how it misses the point. For example, if we look at YHWH 65b6, Ve'amar Rabbi Ila Mishum Rabbi Elazar Be'Rabbi Shimon, Kishem shemitzvah al adam lomar davar hanishma, אך מצווה על אדם שלא לומר דבר שאינו נשמע. רבי אמה אומר, חובה שנאמר, אל תאכל את פן ישנאיך, הוכח להיכם והיה אהבך. Here's the translation and explanation from Sephira.org. The Gemara cites other statements made by Rabbi Eliah in the name of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Eliah said in the name of Rabbi Elazar, son of Rabbi Shimon, just as it is a mitzvah or commandment for a person to say that which will be heeded, so it is a mitzvah or commandment for a person not to say that which will not be heeded. One should not rebuke those who will be unreceptive to his message. Rabbi Abba says, it is obligatory for him to refrain from speaking, as it is stated, do not reprove a scorner, lest he hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Proverbs 9:8. So, what is God's main point in Mishlei or Proverbs 9:8, according to the Oral Torah, Mishnah, Gemara, and Talmud? Stop correcting someone when that someone hates correction, and keep correcting someone when that someone loves correction. That's it? Nope, not at all. Because Mishlei or Proverbs 9:8 is not a commandment for us to follow, but an example for us to follow. Because God's main point in Mishlei or Proverbs 9:8 is if you hate correction, you are a scorner. But if you love correction, you are a wise man. If you find this helpful, just simply like and subscribe to this channel. If you want to help back, just kindly donate at our Ko-fi or Patreon. Links are in the description. Thank you and God bless.